Well, Curt Cignetti might be everything that's wrong with college football right now.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, welcome in. This is the Locked On Mississippi State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm Jaron, Spor, nearly a decade in journalism and a national college football writer with Athlon Sports, joined by my co-host Landon McBride, a longtime journalist and college sports fanatic. This is your daily home for all things Mississippi State. Today, we're diving into why Curt Cignetti's approach is actually ruining college football. Then we'll talk about whether Mississippi State can replicate Indiana's recent success. We're wrapping things up with our upset alert. To our everydayers, stick around at the end. We'll talk about how we can make your experience even better. Also, we're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter with daily videos Monday through Friday, and soon to be Facebook. So make sure to like and subscribe over there as well. All right, Landon. So I was the one who kind of came up with this topic. I've talked about Curt Cignetti before, and the first things first I want to say is I think he's the best coach in college football right now. You can say it's Kirby Smart. Give me Curt Cignetti. When I talk about his approach, it's actually my issue with him ruining college football isn't actually with him, because I think what he's doing is actually great. He's the first since it has been calculated, which I think is somewhere in the mid 2000s. Indiana was the first team that didn't have at least a 50% blue chip ratio rate, and their percentage was 8%. Yeah. Like, I think it's great what he's doing now. He has a really old team, a veteran team. I think their average age is 23, I believe it was, which the Packers, for example, is 25. Like, they're very close. So, I mean, he got some advantages by having some older guys, but they didn't just go out and spend. And, obviously Mark Cuban was there and helped, but they didn't just go spend and get the top player in the portal and get this guy in recruiting and all this stuff. Like, they haven't been a top recruiting team. They haven't been a top transfer portal team. My issue is not with him. It's how now fans and really administrators are reacting to it and are going to react to it, because now it's, if you bring in a coach and it doesn't matter what the program is, you better win right away. If you don't win right away, you're not any good. Get rid of him. Let's move on. And I think you're going to see a lot of rash decisions because of it. But the issue is sometimes a guy is just one of one. Like Indiana, because of what he did at Indiana, every school is now going to have those Alabama expectations, which is, Alabama, you take the head coaching job at Alabama, you better be in the playoff quick and you better win quick. Like, that's how it is at Alabama. That's how it is at, all the big schools, Ohio State, Oklahoma, schools like that, USC, like, that's how that is. Like, you better win right away. Notre Dame. But now that's going to be every school because of what he did. And that's why I think instead of letting coaches grow, instead of giving them time, you're going to see a lot of rash decisions, which is ultimately bad for your program and bad for college football as a whole.
Well, I think he is everything right with college football, and Indiana is everything great about this new era. But I do, and it gives everyone hope. Now you have to hope that the administration takes the right lessons from this, and that now there's a new path. It doesn't mean your path to a championship is in 2 years, but there's going to be a lot that do. I think the higher profile schools are going to have a quicker leash or shorter leash on their coaches, which, I mean,
and they always have.
So a lot of these big programs already had like 4 years max. I mean, that might go down to 2 or 3. Whereas I think you're going to see a bunch of, we've already seen a lot this year, group of 5 head coaches. A lot of them are going straight to head coaching jobs. You're probably going to see more FCS coaches getting straight to big jobs because of what Cignetti has done. Now, I do think it's great for the sport overall. I would not be surprised if a few programs end up in worse shape because they try the Indiana path and it doesn't work. And so they scrap it and try it once again with a whole new coach and it doesn't work. And you're on your third coach in 5 years and a whole new team and it just hasn't worked out. And your program's in the same or worse spot. But I think what him and Indiana have done makes college football 1,000 times more exciting, because now every team feels like they have a shot. I mean, the losingest program in college football history just won a national title, whereas before there was about 8 teams cycling through who would
Right.
win them every year.
Yeah, no, and again, this isn't anything a shot at him because what he is doing, as you mentioned, is everything you love about the sport. And this is a big stamp of approval to this new era of the transfer portal and things like that because it is opening up more parity. There are teams like in Indiana that can now win a national championship because of it. And so overall, there's a lot of good that is happening from this based off of him. I'm just specifically talking about now every team's going to have unrealistic expectations. And the best way to build a program is to give a coach time to learn, develop players, develop a scheme, and especially a lot of these coaches that will be new to the job, or maybe they're new to being a head coach in general. You can't expect them to be a winner right out of the gate. They're going to have their bumps in the road and they got to fight through some things, and you got to let them fight through some things. And the longer a coach is at a school, the more likely players are going to be there longer. Whereas if you're cycling through coaches every couple of years, you're going to hit the portal, then you're rebuilding your whole team again, and then you're back where you're at. I mean, I already saw Mississippi State fans like, oh, Indiana did it. Why can't we do it? And it's like, and we'll get more into like, can Mississippi State replicate it? But it's like, the reason why you didn't do it is because you didn't have Curt Cignetti to do it. Like, that's the big thing. You didn't have Curt Cignetti. And I know there's this rumor, by the way, going around that Curt Cignetti, we interviewed him at Mississippi State, and we chose Jeff Lebby over Curt Cignetti.
Nope.
Curt Cignetti never interviewed at Mississippi State. It just didn't happen. He was listed like once or twice, but like right when the Mississippi State job opened, which a lot of sites do, they post a big board, or a board,
which is pretty much every possible candidate out there.
Pretty much, yeah. And he was obviously listed on that. But if you actually think that he interviewed, Curt Cignetti's season ended on November 25th of 2023. He was hired by Indiana on November 30th. That's 4 days. You're saying that he not only interviewed with Indiana, which he apparently did 3 times, he also flew into Starkville and did an interview there too. And it was between Starkville and Indiana, and he chose Indiana. That's just not what happened.
And if you believe that, he was on other boards too, so he was very busy. He was flying from interview to interview all over the country for 4 days.
Right. And Jeff Lebby was hired on the 26th. So the day after his last game, Jeff Lebby was hired, Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti did not have time to go interview for that job. Mississippi State wanted Jeff Lebby because Zach Selman's history with Jeff Lebby, and he was one of the hottest offensive coordinators in college football at that time.
Yeah.
They zeroed in on him, and they got him. Indiana, which they've talked about, and their AD has talked about it, zeroed in on Curt Cignetti and, circled him and got it done. And he said it was a 96-hour process where they did multiple interviews. They did virtual. They met him. He came, there. There was a bunch of stuff that went on in those 96 hours. It was always Indiana. He never, ever, ever interviewed at Mississippi State, and he didn't do any interviews before the season ended for someone that was like, well, what if he interviewed during the season? He didn't do any interviews during the season. So that's just a wrong statement. But with that being said, I love the Indiana story. It's my favorite story. I think it's the best story in college football history.
It's up there.
It's just people got to take it with that framework. This has never happened in the history of college football. It should now not be the expectation that it will happen.
I mean, it's like in every sport, like in NBA in the 90s, Jordan winning 6 finals. For so long, that was like the standard. If you don't win 6 championships, you're a failure. And then, LeBron does what he's done. It's like, oh, well, every number 1 pick has to be LeBron. If he's not, then the number 1 pick is a failure. It's just
if you lose in the finals, you failed.
Yeah. Or in NFL, Brady broke it. And then now everyone wants Mahomes. And if you're not Mahomes, you're not worth a first-round pick as a quarterback. That's just not how sports work. And anytime someone breaks the mold, everyone thinks that should be the new, just standard. That's just what everything should be now. That's just not how it works. The reason these stories and these players and these events are special is because they're like a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 2 type scenario. So you take what happened and you try to learn from what worked for Indiana and see if you can apply some of that to your own program, not replicate it exactly.
Right. And Giannis was asked about every time he didn't win a championship, it was a failure. And he gave a great quote and he got a lot of flack for it. But what he basically said was, no, just because you don't win doesn't mean it's a failure. Like, obviously, the ultimate goal is to win it all, but you learn, you grow, and
Mhm.
because of that growth, that's helps you win again. And he was like, so you telling me Michael Jordan failed 9 of his 15 years? Like, no, I don't see it
Yeah.
that way. Like he won 6 rings, and because of the losses he had early in his career, propelled him to that win,
Mhm.
later on. And so it's true. I mean, you can grow in so many ways, and it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
how teams kind of navigate this new era,
Mhm.
and with a team like Indiana pulling it off. But the big question, can Mississippi State replicate what Indiana just did? We'll talk about that coming up next.
Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. And instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online, and they'll handle everything from your W 2s to self employed forms and work to get you every deduction possible. And you can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file your taxes last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today.
All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club, access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Mississippi State, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. That is a place that Landon and I hang out. Again, we've talked about it many times. We'll talk about rumors in there and stuff that we haven't brought to the show yet, just because some of it is outrageous rumors that have to still be fleshed out. And so that's not stuff that we talk. We don't just talk about every rumor out there. So but that's stuff that we could flesh out that, hey, keep an eye on this. Javen James, for example, we brought it up the other day. There was rumors about him entering the portal all the way back to this past weekend.
Yeah.
That would have been stuff that would have been in the chat that you guys kind of would have expected. And speaking of that, he signed with Alabama. So
Yeah.
he ended up finding a place. But check that out. Also, go to the URL that's in the show notes if you would like to learn more. Before we get into this next segment, because we're going to talk about this more on Friday, but Mississippi State did land interior offensive line Caleb Unger. He's a 2027 3-star offensive lineman. So, and that happened just a little bit ago. And so we'll dive into more recruiting stuff this weekend, but it kind of ties into this. Can Mississippi State replicate it? Because that's the question that every athletic department is asking themselves right now. Indiana has now given a blueprint on how to win a national championship without having elite classes and elite transfer portal classes. But can you duplicate it? My thing is, can you duplicate it? Yes. How likely is it you duplicate it? Not very. And the reason why I say that is because I really think, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I said it even last year when we watched him and they flamed out. I really think we're watching one of the best coaches in the history of the sport. And unless you have that, and for a coach like that to stay at a place like Indiana, they're lucky they got him at an older age, in my opinion. Because if he was having the success and he's like 38,
Oh,
I think he goes. But because he's older, I think he stays. And so it's just, I mean, unless you have a coach like that, I don't see it.
So I don't think you can replicate it in sense of you take the entire blueprint. Now, there are some things you can take from how Indiana won this and bring it in and make your team immediately better. And the first thing is discipline.
Yeah.
Indiana did not beat themselves. Like against Miami, I think what they had like 4 pre-snap penalties, and that was like the most in a game all season or something
Yeah.
absurd like that. Like that's how you win games when you are on paper, according to rankings, a less talented team. You don't beat yourself. And if you become a very disciplined team that does not turn the ball over, which is what Indiana was, you become a hard team to beat. And then when you factor in, you got Mendoza, who, when he came over, was not considered, not even like a first round draft pick type of
Right.
player. And then maybe you hit on a couple guys who are outliers because of their size, like D'Angelo Pons. That man played amazing. The best corner I saw play. Now he's not going to go high in the NFL draft because he's going to be 5'8", 170 pounds, and that guy's not going to get drafted high. But
Mhm.
and that guy's not going to get a 5-star ranking on any site. Guy's not going to get a 4-star ranking. But the dude can play. He's a dog. And you get a guy like that, you just have to find those type of things. You be disciplined and find those few outliers that are a little bit lower ranked because of either a size thing or maybe they're not quite as fast as you want them to be. But you put them in a position to succeed and play disciplined football. You might not make it to the title, but that's 2, 3 more wins every season if you do those things.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Indiana was third in turnovers lost this year. So they didn't turn the football over,
Mhm.
which goes back to not being yourself. They're tied for fifth in fewest penalties per game at
Yeah.
3.67.
Yeah.
You win games that way. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, and that's discipline, and that stuff can be replicated. I'm glad you brought that up. That's something coaches can instill in their teams. That's something that Mississippi State is not right now.
No.
They are very undisciplined. And if you want to blame Jeff Lebby for that, he deserves some of the blame.
Yeah.
Players deserve the blame too, because like the pre-snap penalty stuff, that shouldn't happen. Like
Yeah.
the count on offense. How are you having a pre-snap penalty? So that kind of stuff is the players too. It's not just coaches, and you can't tell
Mhm.
me the coaches are just teaching that. But
Yeah, you're not teaching undiscipline.
right, right. And the other thing I was looking at, so they have not had a top 30 recruiting class
Mhm.
since he got there.
Yeah.
34 is their highest ranking. They also had the 30th ranked transfer portal class his first year. The 25th ranked one his second year, leading to
Mhm.
this national championship. Now this year he has the 7th, but they've just won a national championship and they just
It
had
should be that high.
yeah, it's going to go high at that point. But before that, he had operated without a top 30 recruiting class
Mhm.
and without a top, or I guess technically one top 25, but no top 20
Yeah.
recruiting classes. But his teams were disciplined. He found the right pieces. The
Mhm.
Mark Cuban was interviewed because obviously he's been donating. He went to Indiana. He's been donating
Yeah.
stuff like that. Mark Cuban was interviewed, and he said when they asked him to donate, his biggest question was, how do we do that without ruining what we have in terms of
Mhm.
this blue collar attitude from the players that is really just working? And that's who
Mhm.
we are. That's because he said, as soon as you start just, hey, here's a big time recruit, we're going to throw a ton of money at
Yeah.
him and bring them, you kind of lose your culture because you're
Mhm.
bringing in guys all over the place. And then you got guys that are the blue collar workers that are like, wait, why are you not paying me? Why are you
Yeah.
paying that guy? And it can just divide the locker room, and they sold him on, we're not going away from that. And they haven't. Again, they have the 7th ranked transfer portal
Mhm.
class this year, but they hadn't had, and they didn't have a top I think this year was the 34th ranked recruiting class. So it was recruiting, wasn't a top 25 class. Transfer portal is, but even that portal, they signed 17 guys. One of them was a highly touted quarterback, so
Mhm.
that's going to boost you as
Yeah.
well. But yeah, I think there's things that you can replicate if you're
Mhm.
Mississippi State, a team like Mississippi State. The big one is find the right coach,
Mhm.
instill the discipline. And Landon and I have talked about this many times.
Yeah.
Why can't Mississippi State be like the Kansas States under Bill Snyder, where they just didn't beat themselves? Don't turn it over.
Mhm.
Don't have penalties. Make teams beat you. Don't beat yourself. Make them beat you. And sometimes you will because you don't have the talent,
Yeah.
but make them do it.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I think schools at a whole and administrations can take away from this, invest in football. This does
Yes.
not happen if the university does not back Cignetti at every turn, whether that's giving him a little bit more money for coaches for maybe, and I don't know, I haven't dug into what all Indiana's done. Maybe they upgraded a few things inside the facility. Obviously, they invested a ton in NIL. You're not getting even a 30th ranked transfer portal class
Yeah.
without significant NIL investment. So that's the lesson administrators need and donors and fans need to take from this is invest in the program. Because if you don't, it doesn't matter in today's era if you're disciplined and have the right coach, because you're only gonna be able to get in so many players because those players are going to go for the bigger payday when it's, like a wildly disproportionate amount. So I think that's the other thing that teams have to take away from this.
Well, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday where Cignetti said, hey, they were all in on football. They have been historically a basketball school, but they've been putting the money towards football, and that's why we're where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. If Mississippi State wants to replicate it, whether you like it or not, Mississippi State fans, baseball cannot be the number one priority. It
No.
can't. It just can't. And it can't
Number
for a
two.
lot of reasons. Yeah. The main reason why it can't is because football funds basically every athletic. You
Yeah.
have to be good at football. And I promise you, if you're good at football, you can still have a very good and even elite baseball team. But you can't go all in on baseball and have a great football team. It just can't happen. You have to go all in on football, and that will also help baseball as well. So that's the hard conversations that are going to have to be had with management, with the athletic director, obviously Zach Selman, the president of the school, stuff like that. That's conversations you got to have because you got to be all in on football if you want to have the top success. But all right, coming up next, we're going to look at our upset pick of the week. College football season's over, but NFL is going on. Do we go that route? College basketball is going on. We'll talk about that. That's coming up next. All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the number one sports podcast network. All right, Landon. Who are you putting on upset alert? Are you going NFL? You going college basketball? Which route are you going?
Well, I stuck with college basketball just because we've been in this college sports mode so much. And, they don't really have lines out for the weekend games yet. But so I'm just going solely off of rankings.
And I will say basketball, it's usually whoever's ranked higher.
Yeah, it's rarely anything crazy. And I decided, I've been cold on this whole upset thing lately. And the last time I got off this was when I went the big swing.
Yeah.
So I'm going with the big swing here. Got Oklahoma State upsetting Iowa State.
Well, they lost both games last week. I know they won the other day, but I'm pretty sure they were undefeated and then they lost.
Yeah, they had a little bit of a slide, but I think they won their last one.
Yeah, they won the one this week, but I want to say they lost the two
before that.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, they lost to Kansas and Cincinnati.
Yeah, they got blown out by Kansas and then Cincinnati. So I actually went NFL, and the reason why I went with this pick is because before the playoffs, by the way, I just want to say I've been loving the NFL playoffs because I have not seen this much parity in NFL in a long time. I do, for those that don't know, I do the Locked On Bucks squad show, and we did our episode yesterday, and we were talking about who we think's going to win it, and literally my other two co-hosts with me were like, I don't know, and then they ended up picking a team, and I told them, I was like, when's the last time you went into conference championship game and you're like, I have no clue who's going to win. And that and like usually you're like, man, I think the Chiefs are going to win, or I could see the Eagles going to win. It's like I have no clue who's going to win, and that's kind of I feel like right now. This isn't a popular pick, but before the playoffs, I picked the Rams to win it, so I'm going to stick with the Rams. They're actually underdog to Seattle -2.5. Don't feel great about it because Seattle just waxed the 49ers last weekend. And the last time they played was the game the Rams blew the giant lead that they had. But I think the Rams, they're my Super Bowl pick. So I think they're going to win. I honestly, Denver, I feel bad for the Bo Nix situation. I will say for the team that can overcome it, it's them because their defense is so good.
And Sean Payton's the right coach for that situation.
Right, and I could totally see them upsetting the Patriots because Patriots are actually favored in the game, although Denver's the higher seed. I could see that, but I'm going to go Rams just because I picked them to win the Super Bowl, and so if I'm picking that, they got to win it. So,
yeah, that's good. I don't know. That Seattle defense is on a tear right now.
Oh yeah.
He seems to he's pulling out every scheme and the right moves, and they hit the draft picks this past year, so they're kind of poised to have a good defense for a while in Seattle, it seems.
And the funny thing is, if you would have said before that draft that Sam Darnold would be the first one to win the Super Bowl, a lot of people said, yeah, I could see it because he was, so a lot of people thought he should have been the first pick. But then if you would have said that 2 or 3 years later, they would have said you were crazy.
Yeah.
And it's legit. He might do it. And he would not only do it, but be the first to make the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar hadn't made it. Josh Allen hasn't made it. Baker hasn't made it. And then obviously Rosen is flamed out of the league, but
very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. After saying that there was 10 mistakes made ahead of him. Turns out there were not. But it is pretty crazy that of all of those, it's Darnold that is possibly going to the Super Bowl first.
Yeah, it's crazy. His turnaround is great. It makes you wonder how much of it is just his development versus just complete dysfunction in New York.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of that. And well, then dysfunction with the Panthers.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been worse for him and Baker, really, to go from the Browns and the Jets to the Panthers. Like, that was terrible. Yeah. And now you're seeing them flourish with actual good teams and
good organizations. Yeah, it's amazing what'll happen there.
Yeah, and I will say JSN is having one of the best
wide
receiver seasons we've ever seen, and so that helps a quarterback as well when you got that. And they got a great running back duo, really, Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker.
Solid O-line, all the ingredients to make a quarterback successful.
Yeah, and that's why if they ended up going on this kind of run where they dominated the Rams and then dominated whoever in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, at all. All righty. Well, thanks for tuning in today. Locked On Mississippi State. Tomorrow, like I said earlier, we're going to talk more recruiting because we did get a commit on Thursday. So we'll talk about that. Obviously, preview stuff that's going on this upcoming weekend. So make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Mississippi State so you get all the latest episodes. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Daily videos, so check that out. If you never miss an episode, the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked On Mississippi State ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to the custom link in the show notes to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football. For Locked On Mississippi State, I'm Jaron. That's Landon. Until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.